Joan Quinn Profiles. As an editor for Andy Warhol's Interview, the Los Angeles Herald-Examiner, LA Style, and Detour magazines, Joan covered the social set, the Hollywood hotshots, the international art scene, the mysteries of food, the excitement of travel, and the fabulous world of fashion. Joan continues to find creative people on the cutting edge who make things happen. Here's Joan Quinn.
Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome to the Joan Quinn Profiles. We're here today on location at the Duke & Duke Art Gallery in West Hollywood, and the work on the set is by my old friend, sculptor, Peter Schlesinger. I'm here waiting to have my guests profile. The first one is author, artist, Marcella Ruble, and the second one is executive director of the 24th Street Theater, Jay McAdams. Artist, author, art historian, Marcella Ruble is also the director of the Harrison Ruble Gallery, a lawyer with a focus on entertainment law and intellectual property. She was born and raised in Chicago, has a Bachelor of Fine Arts from the University of Illinois, an MA in Decorative Arts from Bard Graduate Center, and a Juris Doctorate at JD, where'd you get that one? Kent College.
IIT Chicago Kent College of Law.
Chicago Kent College of Law. Los Angeles is lucky when you moved here because you've been involved in so many cultural activities, and that's really where I met you. The cultural life of Los Angeles is almost as good as Chicago, pretty close. So let's talk a little bit about the work that you've done. I've met you at the Blue Ribbon, the Library Foundation, Beverly Hills Women's Club, and the Robinson's Garden. And I know the Robinson's Garden is one of the things that's close to you because you co-authored this book, Beverly Hills First Estate, The House and Gardens of Virginia and Harry Robinson. But how many lawyers do we know who have this artistic bent that you do?
More than you would imagine. Actually, there's a lot of creativity that can be in the law, and this is the experience. So,
were you always like this when you were going to law school? Did you always want to do art and have all these extra things going on?
Oh, I was an artist first. I backdoored into the law.
Oh, you did?
I thought, my husband said, well, if you want to travel with me, you need to go to law school so we can do work together. And I, stupidly, having a degree in sculpture from the University of Illinois in 1972, thought, oh, school, that will be fun. I had no idea.
But do you think, I think it was easier because you were smarter than to go to law school afterwards.
Yes, but I had to. Yes or no, I'm not sure. And then more recently, I went back and got my master's at the Bard Graduate Center thinking, oh, that will be really fun. Only it was really hard, too.
So, Marcella, as a lawyer, what was one of your most interesting cases?
Well, the most interesting to me and most unusual recently was a case that we got to retrieve a painting for a woman who her mother and father had given to an art dealer in 1975, and he wouldn't give it back.
Oh, you're kidding.
And what was interesting about it, this painting could have been by Leonardo da Vinci. And because David Bomford, then head of the Getty Museum, had seen it in the 1960s in London when he was studying with a painting conservation professor there, and this professor was showing it to him because he really thought it was the real one. The copy, he thought, was at the Louvre.
Oh,
but
wow.
as it turned out, these art dealers had kept it for all this time. And we managed, after 5 years of litigation, to get it back. We took it to the Getty Conservation Department, and they generously looked at it. And in fact, they thought it probably wasn't because of various elements about it, but it was a beautiful painting. And at that point, we were able to send it to Sotheby's, where in January 2010, It sold at the Old Masters auction for $1.5 million.
So for your client.
For our client.
You got the painting back. Is it a painting or a drawing?
Painting.
It was a painting.
And I recently had the opportunity to be in Paris, and I went to the Louvre to see the sister painting, so to speak.
Oh, did you?
And it was really exciting, yes.
Could you compare? Could you tell?
Yeah, you're not having them both there.
But from the same school?
But yes, you could really see the similar hand. But it was interesting because it was such a big trial, and I had studied, and I wrote my master's thesis on Da Vinci, the greatest art dealer of the 20th century.
That's what I wanted to ask you about, too. So was Da Vinci involved?
Yes, he had been sued in 1919 for slander of title, which I love that cause of action, because he said, no, that's not the real one. The real one is at the Louvre, and that's just a copy. So they sued him for it, and that took 10 years to go to trial. And in 1929, before a jury of his peers, 12 people in New York City who had never heard of Leonardo da Vinci, if you can imagine.
No, that was the jury?
Yes. And what was really amazing was they had a black and white photo of the painting at the Louvre because there was no color photography then. And of course, the Louvre wouldn't let it out to go to this trial. And then they had the beautiful painting that we retrieved. So the jury is looking at the two going, well, I'm listening to all the experts, but quite frankly, that's a beautiful painting.
The one that was retrieved?
Yes.
Was very beautiful. And did we ever establish who painted it?
It was probably painted in the French Academy in the late 1600s.
So the School of, they call it, or whatever?
Yeah, so it would be in the School of. But there were other elements that attributed to more of the Royal Academy, and they were the only ones that had access to the Louvre at the time, so they would have been able to see the real one.
And why was Da Vinci tried in New York and not in Paris? Wasn't he from Paris originally?
Actually from London,
Oh,
but
from
they had a
London.
very big location in Paris
Oh, they
as
did.
well. But in New York, he had a very big facility, and because he'd criticized it in New York,
Oh,
that
so-
gave him...
I
Now,
see.
more recently then, John Brewer, Professor Brewer from Caltech, wrote a book about it called The American Leonardo, and he was the person who actually called me up one day and said, Marcella, I just met Mrs. Hahn, and I told her that you'd probably take the case.
And so that was great that you were a lawyer and you could take this case because you've done so many charitable things. Actually, it doesn't matter that you were doing it for money because it was a charitable case and having to do with art.
It was very
Really.
exciting.
So in keeping with all of that, you've done a work and you've written more of your, dissertations or whatever for Robinson Garden.
Well, when I moved here in 1997, I almost immediately stumbled upon this lovely facility in Beverly Hills, the Virginia Robinson Gardens, and I said, boy, this is such a beautiful place. I'd like to be more involved. And at the time, they could have an evening gala and a garden tour, daytime garden tour for a large group of people every year, and that was their major fundraisers.
That's when I belonged to it.
And so I went, and I just fell in love with it, and then I got more involved. And then I had the opportunity to go to graduate school at the Bard Graduate Center in New York, and I started doing research on Virginia Robinson and Harry Robinson, and 10 years later, we finally did the book for the centennial.
But why did you decide to do a book?
Because you want to capture the history before you lose the history, and so many people were dying, and
So where did the history come from?
a lot of
Interviews?
research.
A lot of research. Interviews, too?
Interviews, a lot of research into the newspaper history, so
I
you can search in what they call ProQuest. And I have a 60-page annotated section of all of the newspaper, little tiny blurbs of all the newspaper articles that this family and their parents were involved in.
This book is so thorough, and there's a picture of her car in it. And the Mercedes, was it a Mercedes-Benz?
No.
Oh, it wasn't.
No, it was a Duesenberg.
Oh, it was a Duesenberg, I'm sorry.
And it was just sold at auction for $1.9 million. Not that it was, Virginia had sold it a long time ago, but they kept the history.
Was it ever, they have pictures of it at the gardens, right?
Yes, we do have pictures.
One of the things that I thought was so beautiful were not only the archival pictures, but things like this.
And I have to say that is the total thanks to Tim Street Porter and his lovely wife, Annie Kelly, because they contributed. They came and they took those photographs and contributed them to the book.
There's so many beautiful contemporary, along with the archival, that like this beautiful little respites in the garden.
It's an amazing facility. It truly is one of the most important 20th century gardens in the United States.
Well, the picture that I liked is on the back. And the other beautiful picture is on the front. So, and I love it that it's a matte finish. Why did you decide to do that? The pictures inside are matte too. I love that.
You know, that was really the creation of our book designer, the only person we really did hire. Pretty much everything in that book was contributed. We even raised the money to do it.
Yes, how did you raise the money?
Well, you know, they kind of say, ask and they will come. And it was the centennial year, and I said, if we don't do it now, when would we do it? And so people were so generous, and it was really exciting because it got such a group involvement, and we expanded the group a lot just by, you know, trying to do this. But this particular person, Mick from PhD,
who made the flat,
who made the whole book, he had done Wendy Kaplan's exhibition catalog for California Design, Living in the Modern Way. That was the wonderful exhibition at LACMA this past year that's traveling all over the world now. And I thought that book was so beautiful, and I'd also gotten to know Mick through that, and so I, you know, said, oh, please, won't you help us?
Yes.
And he also generously contributed it. And that was his concept, that was his design, and I can't thank him enough for it.
It's fantastic because it has such a nice feel to it. And to make money, you sell this?
Yes, so we do sell it. Oh, yes. I said I'm going to be one of those people in the corner with those storyboards saying, star maps here,
Right.
Virginia Robinson books.
But that's great.
Mm-hmm.
People are lucky to have that. Before we leave, you brought these jewels. You're wearing them, and they're going to a museum to be sold at the Gene Autry Museum.
Yes, I'm so excited.
And at other museums, I'm sure. They're made out of ceramics. These are peanuts. And you're wearing the strawberries. Tell us where this inspiration came from.
Now, I actually have to say, that came from the 1970s, and I sold them all over the United States at that time, at Henri Bendel's, the 21 Collection, and all these other places when I was living in Chicago. And I was supposed to have, I also have an art gallery, and I was hoping to have, for the Pacific Standard Time exhibitions, an exhibition of a dear friend who's passed away, Wallace Sewell, who was a very famous Hollywood photographer.
Fantastic photographer.
The most wonderful man and wonderful
And
photographs.
those pictures that he took of Zsa Zsa Gabor were up at her house where we were recently.
I know, I was so excited when I saw them. But that didn't work out, unfortunately. And so I thought, well, what can I do to complement PST? And I thought, I sold the jewelry out here in the 1970s. I'll do that. And so that's how it started. And now I'm just doing a lot of different things with it, too. I've got garlics now. And
Oh,
for those who are
really?
afraid of vampires, I figured that would be topical
That's
this fall.
fabulous. Garlic and skulls. Fantastic. Well, I'm glad that you were here. Thank you so much for being a guest today.
Thank you for having me. This is a real joy.
Thank you. And don't go away. We'll be right back with Jay McAdams. Hi, I'm Joan Quinn, and welcome back to the Joan Quinn Profiles. We're here on location at the Duke and Duke Art Gallery in West Hollywood. And I am here with actor, producer Jay McAdams, who was born and raised in Oklahoma City, studied at the Rose Stage College, right? Did you study broadcasting there? And he graduated from the American Academy of Dramatic Arts. He was a cultural envoy to El Salvador, which was an appointment by the United States State Department. And he's trained in various prestigious leadership programs around the world, I guess. Jay, now you have to tell us a little bit about the 24th Street Gallery because you're the executive director there.
Right, 24th Street Theater. We're at 24th and Hoover over by USC.
I called it a gallery, didn't I?
We're in a gallery, though. It makes sense. Makes sense. We're surrounded by art.
By SC, 24th Street?
Right, by your old alma mater.
And is it near Hoover?
Right, on Hoover and 24th Street.
What kind of a building is it, and what is
It's a great old 1928 carriage house. So it looks like an old barn.
Oh, great.
Yeah, it has a lot of character. When we first started out, people would stop at the door and say, "Oh my God, I just got goosebumps coming in here."
Really?
Yeah,
And
it's
how
a
long has
great
that
space.
been?
That is 15 years. We're in our 15th anniversary this year.
Oh, my gosh. And why did you go to 24th Street?
Yeah, and at the time, it was a little scary down there, I must say.
Yes, because I taught down there, too.
Right.
I taught school after SC, and I was teaching at Menlo and in that area.
Right, right. It's changed a lot down there, actually. It's really a great neighborhood. But we came there because the dean of theater wanted a professional theater in the neighborhood. So he kind of lured us down there, a few theater artists from West LA.
Oh,
and,
is that what happened?
And found us this building, and that was kind of it. We just started.
Well, you started it and you were running it, but your background is in acting and theater and TV and waitering.
Right. Like every good actor in LA, right?
I know, you have to add that to it.
That's right. That's
so
right.
how did you start?
Well, just like that. I came out to go to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, graduated from there, did some work in plays and in TV and whatnot, and started running a theater company. I joined a theater company and then ended up marrying the director a few years later.
Debbie Devine?
Debbie Devine, the great Debbie Devine.
Did you know her when you started?
Not when I auditioned. My roommate auditioned for her, and she came home and she said, "I had the best audition of my life today. This woman is fantastic."
You're kidding, your roommate?
Right, and my roommate got into her theater company, and for about a year I was hearing how great this woman was, and then they called me one day and said, "Hey, my director wants to meet you. Come over right now." So I jumped in the car and drove over to the rehearsal, and later she asked me to join the company. So I worked with her doing children's theater at the Odyssey here in West LA.
Oh, which is a great theater, too.
Great theater. So we were there for about 10 years doing all their children's programming.
Oh, because I was talking to Jerry Charlson, who does the public relations at the Odyssey, and he said, "Oh, you're going to be talking to Jay. That 24th Street Theater is a great venue."
Right,
so he knew it, of course.
Yeah, he used to live right near the theater.
Oh, that's right. So it's all coming full circle.
It's all one big family, yeah.
And once you joined the company, then you started running it.
A few years later, I started dating the director, and we got married, and then some years went by, and then this opportunity at 24th Street Theater came up. So we moved over there, and really had no plans to run a theater. 2 years into it, one of our co-founders, who was the executive director, said, "I took a job in Pennsylvania. You're going to have to run it now." We said, "We don't know how to run a theater," which is true. We had no idea.
But you'd been taking leadership classes, or was that
No,
after?
that's just in the past decade or so.
Oh,
Since I put on the sports jacket, I had to kind of learn what I was doing a little bit. So
that was pretty interesting because you've done a lot of those. You've taken a lot of classes.
I have, yeah.
And it's probably helped. Does it help in funding and getting?
Yeah, and just management, leadership. A great program at Stanford.
You took that.
Where they apply business principles from the Harvard and Stanford business schools to the arts, which people in the arts think a certain way. So to learn how to think like a business person is a whole new thing.
Right. And did you learn?
Yeah, I learned some.
So when you were in residency at the Odyssey, you were doing Days of Our Lives.
Right, I did some. I did.
Did you do a lot of that?
Yeah, they call them under fives, U5 roles. So those are the waiter, those are the cop that stands
under
by
five
the door.
That way?
Yeah, so I did those for a few years. I did those. I was a newspaper reporter. I was a cop. I was the doctor or whatever standing by the door. And then I got a principal role.
Yeah.
For a while, where I was this evil lawyer.
Oh, so.
So I did that for a bit. It didn't last too long, and then they got a new casting director. I never heard from them again. So.
Oh, so that's what ended your career.
That's what ended my soap career. Was the casting director moving to Northern California to be with her daughter.
And what started your other career was marrying the head of.
That's right. Women have always ruled my life.
So there you are. So we're into nonprofits. You do a lot of that.
And when we say nonprofit, we mean it.
Yeah, it's really tough, isn't it?
Yeah, we've actually grown it though. We're actually one of the more stable theaters in LA. We've got paid staff and health care benefits and whatnot. So again, from my business school, training.
Are you funded by local, like California Arts Council?
Sure, yeah. And
LA City?
I know you served on the council
I
for a
was
while.
on the council for a long time, many years.
Yeah,
we love Little Theater. I always love Little
Yeah.
Theater. And I felt that this show, the Joan Quinn Profiles, is a carryover to bring people from small theaters and actors who really
It's great that you do
support
that.
everything. I always felt like Hollywood never supported us, but we needed the theaters,
Right.
and Hollywood fed off of those great theaters.
Yeah, it adds a lot. And how many theaters are there in town?
Hundreds.
Hundreds, about 150 small theaters, something like that.
So how could someone, is there a troupe? Is there an ensemble at the 24th Street?
Yeah, we have a company called The Lab, which is an experimental children's theater company. It's brand new this year for our 15th anniversary.
Tell us about that.
So it's our shows at 24th Street have been very eclectic. We've had all kinds of shows.
Yeah, I was going to
political
ask you,
shows,
tell us about that.
a lot of children's shows.
And who does the choosing of those things?
Myself and my partner Debbie Devine.
So she's the artistic
She's
director.
the artistic director, right?
And she would choose the material?
And often we'd write the material together. And we've had a lot of, last year our show was the #1 show, the production of the year with the LA Weekly Awards.
Yes,
Out
what
of all
was
the
that?
shows, that was an international co-production we did called La Razón Blindada. It's going to be at the Rubicon Theater in Ventura this fall.
Was
for
it
a
in
month.
Spanish?
It was in Spanish with English super titles. Yeah, we did it with
On
Mexico.
the stage? You had it on the stage in Spanish and you did super titles
Right,
like the opera?
Exactly. But we didn't have all the opera's fancy equipment, so we had to learn how to do it with PowerPoint and a video projector.
But it worked.
It does work.
And
yeah.
then the piece that you're doing now, the end of the
the next piece we're doing is called Rome at the End of the Line.
Roma at the end of the
And
line.
that's also a co-production with Mexico.
And it's all in Spanish.
That one is in Spanish. Again, we're adding the English super titles to it. It's 2 actors we've worked with before.
They're
Wonderful.
great.
They're
I
wonderful.
saw a video on them. They're wonderful.
Yeah.
And I thought, I don't know who's directing it,
Alberto Lomnitz, he's a Mexican director.
but she gets on the train because it's at the end of the line. She wants to go to Rome.
Right.
And the lighting
Yeah.
and the music and everything makes you feel like you're on the train. And you're just
Right.
standing there on stage, right, with two
Right.
people.
Right. It's just a
A
two-hander.
bare stage.
Right, right. But they're both physical actors, physical theater actors. Norma was a clown for Cirque du Soleil. So these are 2 actors who really know how to use their body. A lot more physical theater training in Mexico, I think, than here in the U.S.
Yeah, that was fantastic. And so go on, tell us about the rest of the plays that you
So we
had.
we have that up first. This is our 15th anniversary season. We have that show, and what's great about our 15th anniversary and a little scary, we're kind of switching toward children's theater all season. But the thing is, it's not traditional children's theater. It's really adult theater, but it's stuff that we think kids should see.
Well, so in what respect? Like teaching certain aspects of...
We've been doing children's theater for a long time in LA, in arts education, and we think that what really makes great children's theater is not necessarily that you're teaching them stuff, it's showing them great theater that they can understand, on some level anyway.
But so when you talk about children's theater, is it children's audience? They're the audience,
Yes,
or they're
yes.
acting in it?
No. It's all professional actors, but for young audiences and parents.
I
And there's
see.
not another theater in town doing that. There are plenty of theaters doing children's theater. There's not any theaters that are doing what we're doing, which is really sophisticated
Adult.
type theater, where if you're a parent or a grandparent, you could take your kid and really enjoy the show and not be sitting back there texting in the back row
And the
because
kids
you're
would,
bored.
and the kids would understand it. The kids understand it.
Mm-hmm.
Is it theme driven?
Well,
Are there
we had
certain
a
things?
few themes throughout the season. One of them is clowns. We're bringing one of the best clowns in Mexico. As I said, Norma is a professional clown, bringing a fabulous Canadian clown from Ontario. So clowns.
Do they speak?
Yes.
I mean,
yes.
but it's in Spanish.
Yes, exactly. The first show is not about clowns, but they're both trained
But
clowns.
they're trained, but they speak in Spanish.
Right.
But is that because of the area where you are, that you collaborate with the Mexican theater?
You know what happened was, yes. We started a Latino theater program in 2003 because we had kids coming to the theater, but their parents weren't coming. You know, they would drop them off at the theater and leave.
Yeah, you needed the participation of the whole
Well,
family.
we wanted that. We didn't need it, but we said, look, we're this great little theater in this working class neighborhood. Why aren't the people coming and you know, enjoying it? And people pointed out to me, well, it's because you're doing Western European art. That's why. You need to do work that appeals to Salvadorans and Mexicans who live in this neighborhood.
That's really interesting.
So we brought in Mexican artists because we, you know, couldn't do it.
You
so
speak Spanish?
Terrible Spanish, but yes.
But so you can understand. But
Well,
they
I can
all speak
understand a
English,
little.
right?
No, a lot of
they
these
don't?
actors don't. So then the cultural envoy thing happened. The embassy called us and said, do you have a show in Spanish? We've been to your theater and we love it, but we need something in Spanish.
That's how it happened?
Yeah, so we've
Because
been over there 3 times.
To El Salvador with your plays,
Right.
but with Spanish-speaking
Yeah.
cast?
Right.
Did you cast while you were in the country?
No, we did a show that was here, and
you
then we
took
took
your
the
whole-
show to El Salvador. And
But
we
you-
teach and we work in orphanages over there, all through the U.S. Embassy, and they set it all up. And you know,
How long do you stay?
about 10 days usually at a time. So we
That
do-
is the most exciting program. When I read
great
about it, I
work.
thought it's fantastic.
It's so rewarding because, you know, last time we were there, we did a show for a bunch of kids who had never seen a live play before at a school. We did it at a school. And, you know,
And you have to adapt too.
Oh, yeah.
They have to. They learn something, but you're adapting, and
Oh,
it's
yeah.
teaching your actors
oh,
something
yeah,
great.
I think we get more out of it than the folks we serve over
That's
there.
what I would think
It's
too.
very rewarding. I really love
I
going over
love
there.
the state. The State Department has so many great programs like that
Yeah,
people
they-
don't even know about. And they found you.
They found us because one of their staffers had been to our theater to see a show
Isn't
when they
that
were
great?
here in L.A. So, yeah, that's been a great relationship. We hope to go
Will
back.
you continue that?
I hope so.
Will it be in
slowed down
different-
a little bit because of money from,
I
you
know,
know, the
the
federal
funding.
budgets are all
Yeah,
cut. So.
they're not very good. But would they go to different countries? Do they go to different
Oh, yeah,
countries?
you know, wherever they have embassies, they usually have cultural programs. So,
Yes, but I mean in South America, where you would be going because of your Spanish. Oh, you
Yeah,
could
they-
take it anywhere, couldn't you?
yeah, they have embassies everywhere. So El Salvador is the biggest embassy in South America,
in that region,
Central America.
Central
sorry.
America.
Yes.
So when you have your company and you have your actors there, do you teach any of these leadership skills that you've learned? Do you teach something like that?
Sort of. What we teach the kids, we work with inner city kids. We have about 75 kids a week in after-school programs that USC and other Farmers Insurance and other funders fund for us. Well, really what we teach them is self-esteem. You know, it's not about, you know,
How they act.
we're not doing commercial. Well, it is, I mean, that's the vehicle is theater classes and doing shows with them and all that. But really, you know, once in a while we'll get a call from a studio saying, you know, we're doing a movie. Can you send me? I'm looking for an 8-year-old that's this tall and blah, blah, blah.
Oh, really?
And sometimes we'll send people over, but mostly that's not what we're trying to do, is get the kids into TV. You know, mostly we're just trying to teach them self-esteem, let them learn how to speak and be proud of themselves. And, you know, we use theater as a tool.
I'm so glad you came. And don't go back to acting.
No threat. Nobody's clamoring for me to do that, by the way.
Thank you so much for being with us
Thank
today.
you, Joan. It's a pleasure.
And thank you for watching. Keep writing to JAQUINN1@AOL.com. And the 777 South Figueroa Street, I get all that mail, so thank you very much. And thank you to Duke and Duke for having us on location today.